Our first guest is currently starring on Broadway in the musical Blood Brothers and is hard at work on his autobiography, Come On, Get Happy, to be released in 1994. It's a book that chronicles his days as Keith Partridge. David Cassidy is here. All right. Okay, welcome back. We were just getting started here on the subject of date rape, and everyone has something to say about it. Dave, you're as cute as ever. And you are single and
That's
priced.
why you wanted me to move.
You are single.
Did you want me to move so you could get closer to him?
No. I wanted to ask you because you brought up the subject of drinking, and Antioch College says that you cannot even think about having sex if someone has had a drink. And I'm wondering if there ever would be sex.
Well, some people can't even think about it unless they have had a drink.
That's what I'm saying. Why do you think people go to bars to meet people?
This is the problem I have, okay, with talking about this whole subject, because it's a different perceptions between men and women. Men created ladies' underwear, and they rank it. You know, we have sizes for our brasiers. A cup, B cup, C cup, D cup. When it comes to men...
Talk slower.
When it comes to men and their sexual organs, right?
Yes.
It's condoms. One size is supposed to fit all, and every one of those, that's just not true.
Well, honey, I can tell you that's not true.
Yeah.
But what is that? I don't understand what that has to do with the subject.
Because it's always men who are defining this for us. I mean, look at me. I'm the only woman here. I'm totally outnumbered.
But I still think that what they're doing at Antioch has a shot because guidelines have worked in other the American, I think it's the American Institute of Mental Health. Calm down, Bill. You know, this is they in response to the number of women who were seduced by their therapists, issued guidelines for women patients who are on the couch, certain catchphrases to be on the lookout for. Like if at any point they hear the phrase "scooch over," this is.
Is that a scientific one? Is that
Well, this apparently has reduced the incidence.
scooch over?
Well, I see.
Wear these.
It's getting wear these, right?
In my own defense, I was right to start giggling.
I don't know, how do you account for the fact that Europeans think this is an idiotic subject? I mean, European men and women don't think such a thing as date rape is possible.
Good point,
Particularly
Bob.
in Italy, France, places like that. It's
And
possible.
what about our Latin American countries?
Well, of course they don't think date rape is possible. Half of those men believe in just outright abductions. Have you been in Italy? They drive right up on the curb. They get out of the car. Yeah. They block your passage.
Roll
they
over,
tell you to get into the car.
yeah.
They do. I mean, it's like, get in the car, sweetheart.
Yeah.
That's courtship there.
That's
well,
courtship?
Yeah.
Well, that's...
I thought it was called kidnapping.
Well,
You're right.
may I
It
remind
actually
you...
doesn't sound like Italy or France to me. It sounds like you've been with crazy drivers or something and
I
spent
mean,
too
you
much
haven't
time.
been there in a miniskirt.
No.
But...
Well,
Well,
you're
I
wrong.
have, young lady, and let me tell you something. All
a
our
good
civilization is based on the Romans, and that's who you're talking about. That's another issue. But back
Did
to
you
this,
shave your leg?
don't you think that this? I know you have strong feelings.
Yeah, I do.
For me, I know, but I'm talking about this issue about what should happen to someone if they're raped and so forth. But don't you think this whole date rape thing takes away from legitimate rape? Don't you think when people make these kind of allegations, don't you think that women, just for example, want men to succeed, basically? What if a woman says no 3 times during the night, and then the 4th time she says yes? Have we not all been on a date like that?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you're assuming that guys can't control themselves.
No, I'm not.
No,
I'm just
no,
saying.
No,
that's
we
not
have an
what he's saying.
obligation to put out.
No.
Well,
Have you ever, David, have you ever been on a date where a woman, been with a woman where she said no 3 times to you?
No, but your loins say, ah, yes.
That's right.
Yeah, and you know, when you're, well, when you're in the back of your 57 Chevy and it is dark and you're both in the heat and passion of the moment, I mean, who's to say at that moment, well, you know, I was there and you were there and we were nearly and you wanted it and
No.
Women.
No, David, first of all, you have to say about a guy like that wants you to do it in the backseat of a car, this guy is so cheap. What am I even doing with him now in the first place?
Wait a second.
My
He said
57 Chevy was really a nice
Yeah.
It sounded to
vehicle.
me like you were talking about an antique. It sounded like a very fine car.
Right. Women,
That tuck and roll thing, you know.
women want to be swept off their feet more than anything. That is what they want. How can we do that if we have to ask Mother May I every time? Just look at the cover of a book with Fabio on it.
How about having American women come equipped with dials in their foreheads? And when you see a certain point reached and their their blood is warm to a certain point, then it means yes. So we can proceed. But when
No,
the
you know what it
dial's
is?
done...
Bob, there's politically correct, and then there's just stupid. All right. Coming up next, the National Enquirer, the newspaper for folks who don't have the book learning for People magazine. I'm sorry, I didn't. All right, welcome back, and our next issue. For a publication that everyone claims to despise and disbelieve, the National Enquirer's weekly load of gossip and information seems to find its way into everyone's consciousness. No one wants to admit that the Enquirer is always right, but if the Enquirer says you're dying, don't wait till Monday to get your affairs in order. And speaking of affairs, they never miss one of those either. From Gary Hart to Lady Di to Bert and Lonnie, the answer to the question, are the rumors true, is always the same. The rumors are always true, and the Enquirer is always right. Does anyone have a problem with that?
I do.
I do.
I got a problem with that.
Well, let's hear it.
I'm here to say that I have a couple of members of my family, in fact, that are here.
You're a fictional family or you're a real family?
Yeah. My stepmother sued the National Enquirer, and well, they settled with her out of court.
Right.
So obviously, they printed something about her that was incorrect, was not right. They've printed a number of things over the years about me that have been untrue and gross exaggerations. I think the main thing about the quote-unquote the rags, and it's not just the National Enquirer. For me, it appeals to the lowest common denominator in all of us, and I always want to believe that we are somehow, I know it's naive, I know it sounds too good to be true, but I always want to believe that we are above that, that people don't really want to read about the garbage, that they want to read about the real stuff.
What is the real stuff?
Well, the real stuff is not what appears on the cover of the National Enquirer. I mean, if we had a copy of it right now, we'd go through it and say, I happen to know that obviously that's not true. And I'm not just using the National Enquirer. Let's look at
everything
everything
I read in there eventually turns out to be true. I mean, maybe you're right. I'm sure there are cases where it has not been true. But when they say someone's about to die, that is a second opinion, I believe.
See, I think it pollutes the consciousness of. I mean, we're talking about the consciousness. I think it pollutes it. I think it's disturbing. And if you happen to be close to somebody who happens to be the focus of one of those pieces, that.
I'm not saying it's kind. I'm just saying
more than sleaze.
You're just saying it's true.
I'm just saying it's true.
But even if it is true, I mean, you see a story about a woman who gives birth to a half human, half goat. I know this is not.
That is not the Enquirer. That's the Star.
Okay, well.
No, that's the Globe.
Or the Globe.
Okay,
That's
well,
different.
Well, are we now
this
distinguishing between the Enquirer and the Globe?
Yes,
and the
there is
Star?
a big difference.
One covers aliens and one does not. Okay?
Right,
Let's
right.
just talk about. Let's just
Right,
talk
except
about
for
this,
Delta
this,
Bird.
Talk about this birth. Oh man, this birth. Well, half human, half kid. This half goat.
Okay.
This kid is going to have a difficult time as it is without the scrutiny of the press. That's what I'm saying. Is that?
But isn't there a support group for him?
Right.
Probably.
But that is not the Enquirer.
See, I think by us sitting here and looking at, for me, it's the lowest form of whatever we can do to create
But it's not
negativity.
but
and
Look, it can
But
be
it's
really
if
awful.
you are the focus,
It can
Bill,
be
as
really awful. Let's face it. If you're the focus of it,
it's awful.
It's awful.
It hurts your family.
If someone else
it hurts
is,
the people that care
it
about
could be
you.
a good read.
But let's
You know,
not.
actually, it is more. You're absolutely right. It's
let's
much
be
more
honest.
accurate than you're saying it is.
Yeah.
Not long ago, there was a report that the president was hiding a Martian in the White House. Huh? And now you've seen Ira Magazine or on television tell me he's not from outer space. Huh? And the whole rest of those crowds. I think that you're right. Although you've got a skewed view, I think, of accuracy in journalism.
Anyway, yeah.
You've got a skewed view of accuracy in journalism because you live in a city dominated by the New York Times, so you have to read the Times every morning.
We do?
And, well, I mean...
I thought it was the Post.
You read the Post in the morning? Well, then you're much better off if you read
Right,
the
and the
Post.
Post is, I mean, is that any
pictures are
different than the
bigger.
Enquirer? Is People I love that People magazine writes, it was reported in the tabloids like they're the Harvard Quarterly.
happens
right,
to know that everything in people happens to be true.
Yeah, people, right, sure,
Yeah,
they're a
right,
lot
sure.
better. All right, listen, I have kids coming on, so I have to thank my guests, David Cassidy, Lisa Sleewood, Jonathan Katz, and Emma Turan. We're coming back with Talks to the Kids. My pleasure.
What is Talk to the Kids?
I have kids.
Got a problem with any of this? Well, write to us. Politically Incorrect. HBO Downtown Productions, 120 East 23rd Street, New York, New York, 10010.
The truth is that